I'm Laura from Sewist Abroad, and today is day number 2 of our Rainbow Hexie Quilt Along, which is right here behind me. So yesterday on day 1, what we talked about was getting our fabrics ready and making our 1-inch hexies. We either glue basted or needle basted them. If you are joining us and doing the CL scrap hack, we talked about applying interfacing to the fabric and then cutting out our little hexagons. Today, on day number 2, we are going to take those hexagons and apply them to our background fabric in the design that we choose, and we are going to baste them, get them basted onto the background fabric. Now, I am going to do a little tiny crash course into how you can sew your hexagons together if you want a more traditional English paper piece look. Now, this is my very first time doing any kind of sew along. So if I am not explaining something in depth, or you can't quite understand what I'm doing, please leave me a comment and let me know so that way I can learn how to do this a little bit better, because I'm really enjoying it and I would like to do more in the future. But other than that, enjoy today's video, and like I said, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I would love to hear your feedback. Okay, so today let's get started on getting our hexies ready to put on the background of our quilt fabric and getting our placement and getting that all down on our fabric. So you should have a whole wackadoodle of hexies done from day 1, right? So here's a random collection of mine. And then you're thinking, okay, so Laura, I've got all of these hexies done and they all have paper in it. Don't tell me that I am going to be sewing these with paper in it. And the answer is no, you're not. Don't worry about it. So what we have to do is pop the paper out of the middle of these. If you pre-buy your paper hexies from somebody, sometimes they'll have like a little hole in the middle, and that's perfect for just popping those bad boys right out. I don't, but that's okay because you have to show all the way. So what I'm just doing is I am running my embroidery scissors. I've just kind of put it underneath the fabric and I'm running it along the edges. Any sharp object would do, a needle would do. And then I'm just gonna get my finger in there and grab the edge of the paper and pop it out. I hope I'm showing this okay. See? And then just tug on the fabric and it goes back. There we go. Look at that. And the paper's removed. And if you avoided getting glue around here, or if you needle basted your hexies, then you can save these and just keep using them. So this is a needle basted one. I'm just gonna get in there and pull this out. Look at that. Perfect, right? So we're gonna have to do that to all of them. And I find that you either love this stuff or you hate it. I kinda like it. So I'm just gonna get it out. And get these all out here. I don't know if you can hear my kids singing in the background. They woke up on the high energy side of the bed today. I should say higher energy than normal. Okay, so we're gonna get that out. Okay, so you're gonna do that for all of your hexies. All right. And now if you're doing the CL scrap hack, you don't even have to do that. How awesome is that? Okay, so I'm gonna go through several different ways to lay out your hexies on your background fabric. So bear with me, this is gonna be a little bit longer than usual. So I'm just gonna do a small scale version here for you so that way everybody can see what's going on. Now, when I baste my hexies onto my background fabric, I like to use liquid glue rather than my glue stick because I find that it's less messy and I don't have to use as much. What I like about using this glue and even the other one is that it's washable and it's not going to gum up my needle, so you don't have to really worry about that. But at the same time, you don't want to be like a second grader craft project where there's glue is everywhere. Just be really moderate with it. So when I glue my hexies onto my background fabric, what I like to do, I'll show you how I do it first. Is I will get my hexie. Let's see. I'm going to figure out. First, you have to figure out your design. So you lay it out onto your background. This is the longest part of any project. And I am terrible for this because I will lay everything out and then I'll walk away and then I come back and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to swap these two colors. And then I'll walk away and then I come back to it. I'm like, oh no, I like that better this way. This is honestly the part that takes me the longest. And my advice is going to sound incredibly hypocritical, is just go with it, right? Like just lay them out, see how you like it, and then walk away if you need to and come back. Doesn't matter. But it's much more of like it's much more of a process, an organic process. Like just lay them out. See, you know, whatever pleases your eye. You don't have to be incredibly focused on it. Like just, well, no, that's not really what I want to do here, right? Okay, let's just do a diagonal. Let's get another. Okay, tips that I have for when doing this. When you're just laying them out, lay them out. See how you like it. See what you think about it. How you like how each hexagon is around. If you're using prints, you want to like make sure that they go well together. If you're using solids and we're making a rainbow, then lay them out in the colors that you would like. You could try curving. Like the thing about the way that we're doing it and how we're tacking them down and then we're going to sew them onto the fabric is that you could create whatever shape that you want. You don't have to worry about if they fit together. In other words, you don't have to be linear. You could do a gentle curve across. It's just all about how you lay it out. One thing that I am particular about-ish is making sure that the spacing between each hexagon is relatively the same. I will give you a disclaimer. Quilting is an organic journey. It is not about perfection. For me anyways, I like to look at it as the journey of things. So I'm not going to sit here with a ruler and make sure that all of my spaces are exactly the same. I definitely eyeball it and I strive for it, but I don't lose sleep at night if they're not. So that's the design that I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave them out there like that. Once you have them all, and you've walked away like 5 or 6 times and come back and switch things around, because let's face it, that's what you're doing, and you've settled on it, then it is time to tack the hexagons onto our background fabric. That's where my liquid glue comes in. Okay, so I'm going to get my hexagon, and I'm just going to, now if you needle basted like this one, you might want to trim your threads. I was just looking at that, I'm like, that is long. See? Whoop. Did I get all of it out there? There we go. Okay, so just a small amount of glue. Just enough. I'll put that on there. Boom. And then put it on your fabric. And just gently hold it on so that way it grabs. And that's it. And so we're going to do that for all of them. I'm going to glue this one on. This one probably shows it up a lot better about how much glue I'm actually using. It's barely any. Like really. It's just enough to hold the fabric onto the background. And then of course we're going to use an iron to set this. Okay, so I got that one on there. And then this is my CL scrap pack one. Same rules apply. Just a little bit of glue around the edges here. Boop. Okay, see, like, I don't know if you can really see because of the angle, but I'm just eyeballing the space in between the hexagons. It looks all right to me. And then we're gonna get this red one. See, little bit of glue, little bit of glue. Boom. Okay, now my last hexagon, in order to keep my spacing in between, this one's going to be hanging off the edge, and that is a-okay. No love lost there. I like it because it creates movement, right? Like going beyond the edges there. Okay, I'm just going to push that in. And so this will get trimmed off when we square up our edges, but there we go. So this would be the first way to do it. So we're removing our papers first, then we are settling in on our placement on our background fabric, then we're using the liquid glue here to tack it down onto our background fabric. That is the first way of doing it, okay? So I'm gonna move this. Now, oh, sorry, I forgot a step. Once everything is glued, I mentioned it before, we're just gonna set that with an iron. Okay. So this just sets the glue, and it makes sure that you're not gonna lose any hexagons when you pick this up and move over to your sewing machine. Bam, done, done, done. Okay. So I'm gonna see, look at that, that's secure, right? Like those aren't coming off. I don't know. Ooh, there's a shake. They're not coming off. It's perfect. Okay, so I'm actually gonna put these up over here. Okay, another way of doing this, and this is where it's more traditional English paper piecing. Okay, let's get, how about 1, 2, 3, 4, and an orange middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So another option that you have to do, so we can sew these into strips to make our rainbow and put that down on our background fabric. Or if you like, you could make a whole bunch of, I need another one. Do I have another one? Oh, I do. Goody. Hexagons also make flowers. So what if you did a whole bunch of rainbow colored flowers for your rainbow hexie quilt? That's a thing too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to you about how we would sew these together to make them one unit, and then we're going to tack them onto our background fabric. So we're going to start off with 2 hexagons. Okay, we're going to butt up our edges right here, and then we are going to whip stitch these together. When doing this, I would recommend, 1, leaving a long tail after your knot. I don't know if you can really see it because it's such a light thread. But we're going to leave a longer tail, and then we're just going to whip stitch these together. That's not a ghost, that's a child. Here we go. Usually you would like to use a thread color that matches your fabrics, but for the sake of visibility, I am not. Okay. So we're just getting fabric only. We're trying to avoid that paper as much as we can. Now, if you really didn't want to see these stitches, you could also use clear thread, that non-filament thread. That works too. I'm going to show you why that long tail, well, why I like to keep a long tail in a minute. Alrighty. So we've whip stitched this piece together. I'm just going to finish off with a knot. You know, there's a lot of people who make entire quilts this way, just sewing hexagons upon hexagons together, and I am always, so I'm going to leave the long tail here too. I'm always amazed at the dedication that takes. Okay, I'm just doing a double knot because that's what I'm used to doing anyways. Okay, so then you're saying, oh, Laura, that looks really great. Thanks for, see, look at that. That looks really cool, I like it. But you're crazy because look at that, that's a Y seam. How am I supposed to do that? Well, I'm gonna show you. Okay, so Y seams, you're gonna fit in your hexagon for your center, right? And this is what we're gonna do. First thing that we're gonna do is whip stitch this one, okay? And we're going to work towards the middle, okay? I promise you this isn't as scary as it looks, okay? So for the sake of speed, I am not going to do a tight whip stitch on this one. I am just going to do a quick baste type thing. Actually, when we were in Europe, I missed sewing so much, that I did a lot of hexie sewing, because it was again, you could do the whole thing by hand, and that's how I made these little pin cushions. They're just a bunch of hexagons sewn together, and then I stuffed that with all my scraps. But on some days, that was like the only thing that kept me sane. All right, we're at our Y seam moment. I'm going to do one more stitch there. Remember that long tail that I told you about? This is where it comes in handy. So you don't want to have a gap here, right? Like a little pinhole. So I take my current thread. This is my thread that's attached to my needle. And then I take that long tail that we left and I tie a simple knot. So there's one, here's two, boop, boop. There we go. Okay, that looks really nice. Now what do we do? Well, see, we still have to sew these two edges together. And if we put those, we match up those edges. All you have to do for this one, see, is you fold it. Look at that. So by folding this, this is now flat. Right here, you can see these two are flat. Right, see? And you can continue to whip stitch all the way across. I like to do an extra stitch in the middle because I don't like pinholes. Okay, and we're just going to keep whip stitching all the way to the end, and then you keep going. You grab another hexie and you keep going. So if you wanted to piece all of your hexagons together first to make a solid rainbow, you can do it this way. Okay. Look at that. See how they're all sewn together? There isn't a single hole here. This is perfect. Okay, so if you were to do these all in a line, like, let me get rid of my needle here. So if we were to sew an entire line, let's pretend that this is red and you got your yellows and you put those, sewed those all into a line, then you would have to do your Y seam, which at that point it's like a zigzag, all the way across. You would do it the same way. You would go from one hexagon to the next, fold the one piece in half and carry on that way. And you can do that in all of your rows, and then we would be ready to put that down onto our background fabric. So there's our background fabric. Same thing. You're going to want to pop out all of those papers. Now you're going to keep in the papers while you're sewing them together, and then once they're all sewn, then you would go in and you'd pop them out. Oh, there we go. So this is the one that I folded in half. If I just press that real quick with my dry iron, boom, look at that. It's like it never happened. It's ready to go. Use it again. Okay. I'm gonna get my scissors. I'm gonna run that along the edge so I can get that paper out. Whoop. If after this project you really think, oh, I really want to learn more about English paper piecing, there's a whole bunch of different shapes that people use, and they make some of the most amazing, like, kaleidoscope style quilts. It's really is such a beautiful art form. Okay, so I got that out. This one. I'm always worried that I'm not explaining things the right way, or that I'm missing a few steps. So if you ever feel that I've jumped the shark per se and have forgotten to explain a certain part, please tell me so that way I can go through and maybe do a written comment that would explain it. Okay, so all of these papers are out now, and I am going to give her a quick press just to make sure everything is flat. Well, aren't those Halloween-y colors? And then the same thing, you would apply glue to the edges, put it down on the background fabric, press it with an iron, and then we're done. So to recap, what we have done today is we have gotten our hexies, we have laid them out onto our background fabric into a design that we like. So for this one, I just did a straight line. Then we've gone and we have taken our hexies, got the papers out of the middle. We have used glue around the edges to apply them to our background fabric, and then used an iron to set it. If you were using the CL scrap hack, all you had to do was glue it and then iron it onto your background fabric. If you have decided to go more of a traditional English paper piecing, we have taken our hexagons, we have sewn them together into the design that we like. Then we have used our glue to base them to our background fabric, and then iron them to press them on, or to secure them, I should say. Okay, so that's it for today, and then tomorrow we are going to talk about making our quilt sandwich and then getting ready to quilt our quilt. Thanks very much for joining me, and I hope to see you tomorrow.